Hello, this is the Wrecked Clan, and we are interviewing the number one rated player in Age of Empires 3. His name? Kaiserklein. His skill? He has won over 2,500 times against some of the best players in the world with his best civ. His best civ? Germany. So let's talk about Germany.
Hello, viewers. Um, I'm GK Shaman on here. I could probably rename that, but um, we have Jailed here from Twitch, and we have Kaiserklein, who currently on the charts. And I'll share my screen just so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Um, Currently, when you look at the ladders and you look at supremacy, this guy's at the top. So that's amazing. And you're gonna answer questions about the Civ that you love the most, which is Germany. So I asked our clan a set of questions about Germany, and they came across with multiple on all over the place on what to do, build orders, everything like that. So I can dive into that, but before I do, Jail, do you want to maybe introduce yourself? Kaiser, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me here. It's gonna be fun, and yeah, we can. I can answer any question about Germany. I think I've played that quite a lot. But if you have questions about anything else, it's also fine.
Okay. I think what we'll do is we'll just do the beginning about Germany, and then Jailed, if you want to take over and talk about general gameplay, then I think that would be a best setup. And maybe
Sounds
I'll
great.
take 10 minutes and you'll take 10 minutes, kind of a thing.
Right.
Um,
All right.
Perfect. So I'll jump right in. So, do you miss having a
So,
musketeer unit when you play Germany?
well, yeah, obviously it's one of their main weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
in H2, which is why usually you kind of want to go fortress as Germany reasonably fast.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, before I keep going into more
Yeah.
details, I'm gonna assume we're talking about the official patch. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because yeah, I guess you guys don't really play on EP. All right. So on the official patch, well, Olans are not bad, but crossbows are worse, and yeah, it's pretty hard to counter musketeers yourself because like in H2 basically you can just go pure musketeers, and Germany doesn't have a real answer to that. If you reach the point where you have like 50 musketeers or something like that, Germany will not have a clear counter to them, unlike skirms or something. Because in a big mass, your skirms, your crossbows will just get sort of caught by hussars, and Musk will just go in and kill everything basically. So yeah, it is a problem, but it is why one of the reasons why you want to age to fortress reasonably early as Germany. It's one of their weaknesses, but if you would give Germany masks, they may just be the best civ in the game. So it's you have to take it. It's one of their weaknesses. And about Ulans, well, on the official patch, they're not. I don't know if they're worse than hussars. They're just more situational because usually you want your cav to tank, and Olans they kind of died, like you said. So they're really good at like raiding. They're good
Mm-hmm.
at killing stuff. But when you just want your cav to be like sort of like going in and out all the time, just like baiting and snaring the units, yeah, Olans are not that good at that. So you kind of want to use your Olans to just go in and crush a fight, or just don't go at all because yeah, they're not gonna be tanking as much as a Hussar for sure.
Okay. Okay. I agree with that. Maybe Jail, do you want to talk about what you think about that with because Jailed plays on EP a lot more than I do. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about EP, or Jailed if you want to talk about EP and Ulans.
Well, I'm first going to preface this with Kaiser Klein, from what I understand, is primarily a 1v1 player. And I'm primarily a team player. While I think we both understand a decent amount of concepts of the other, we'll both probably be approaching it from those specific points of views.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I understand, GK. You're mostly a team player, also.
Yeah.
And I agree with Kaiser very much so. Ulan, need to be very decisive with them, and you need to either commit to a fight or not fight at all. I completely agree with that when it comes to Ulans. Ulans are, of course, very good at raiding, like he was saying. And yeah, not having musketeers, he has a really good point. In H2, crossbow costing 40 food, 40 wood. That's very comparable to 75 food, 25 coin of a musketeer. And when they 1v1 each other, the crossbow do decently well, but it's not like a clear counter, not like a skirmisher or something like that. So I agree with Kaiserklein completely there. I would say early on, Ulan are pretty decent, especially on the official patch. You can get a really good mass out, but as it goes later game, they become worse and worse as the sizes of military, especially ranged units, become higher and higher.
Okay. So the other question that always comes up then is, in a game, Kaiser, so in a 1v1, when are you forced to make crossbows? Because I imagine you don't like it, right? You don't like having a massive crossbow in H2. You'd rather have a massive skirm in H3. So when does the opponent force that on you, in a sense? Or what civs do you generally have to make crossbows against?
Yeah, it's very much about the matchup. Basically, as well, it kind of depends, but let's say this: if you think you can hold with just Ulans and like maybe an 8 crossbow shipment and Minutemen, then do it. You don't. If you can avoid training crossbows, yeah, then usually it's better. Then again, in some matchups, you will not open Ulans because it's not a realistic option. I think the best example here is India. Germany does totally fine against India, but you have to open crossbows. If they're gonna sepoy rush you, there's absolutely no way you can defend that with Ulans, because like sepoys are an extremely strong anti-cav and just an extremely strong unit overall. So yeah, then you have to go. Sorry, come again?
Oh no, I'm saying that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to go crossbows because I wouldn't expect to hold that with just 8 bows or Minutemen, because you need to snare, and the Olans, they're not very good at snaring. Like we say, they will die quickly. So against sepoys, it's not a good idea. But then again, let's say India is not going for an agrafort, or like they're not going for an aggressive agrafort, like they're more defensive, then you might as well just go FF, just make no units at all and go for the rest. So yeah, it's really about scouting, if you think you're going to need crossbows or not. Another example could be against Hero. If they're going to rush you really hard, you might want to open crossbows.
So I guess against Iroquois and Ottomans, right? I'm adding Ottomans because of the Jan rush.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's just any civilization that has a really strong musketeer type unit or heavy infantry type unit that they're going to be rushing with. That's when you would probably need to, and rushing really hard with. That's when you're going to need to open up with some crossbows.
It's like if it's a strong musk and if they can get a lot of it early on, then usually it also means they have to cut some eco themselves. Like if they're gonna gen rush you or sepoy rush you, they're gonna cut some eco, so they're kind of hurting themselves. So opening crossbows is fine, right? Like it's not ideal, but if they hurt their eco, you just hurt your unit composition to get crossbows and you defend, and it's fine. But now let's say it's just France and he's got like 1 barracks forward and going mosques, then you don't need to open crossbows, because like France is not going to be rushing super hard. European musketeers are not OP or anything, so then you can probably just go Ulans and rely on that TC fire, Minutemen, 8 crossbow shipment, all that to defend.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. That sounds really good. Let me go back to the link. Let's see what's next. What is the strongest time in the game for Germany?
Um, well, it's usually early fortress. Um, when you hit fortress, basically, you have some Ulans left from H2, ideally. I mean, if you didn't
Mm-hmm.
lose them. Let's take the typical German game. So you're just like going into for semi FF, you're making Ulans, you're raiding, you age up, you ship units. Of course, you ship a lot of units because you get more units per shipment. And
Mm-hmm.
also the thing is that you tech veteran Ulans, and that affects all the Ulans you have from H2. While, for example, France would have some hussars that they don't get to upgrade, So that's a big power spike. Like you get a lot of veteran Ulans without really doing anything in Fortress, just upgrading them. And you get some strong unit shipments, and that's where your power spike is. And usually that's when you want to push out. Then, of course, it depends on the game. Sometimes your early Fortress can be weaker because you had to defend some sort of push in
Yeah.
H2 or something. But generally speaking, your average game, yeah, it would be early Fortress.
Okay. Um, what is I guess this is a really common question I get. What is the best and worst matchup for Germany? And Gerald, feel free to chime in on this as well.
Um, on the RE patch, the worst matchup would be. Well, it's really hard to answer because it depends so
Yeah.
much on the map. Because like having a trading post is super important for Germany. So if you go
Let's
on an
assume it's a
OTC
trade
map,
post map because I know that's a
yeah,
huge thing. So let's
and then
always just assume. Yeah.
there's also the water and all that. So we're gonna just assume we have a pretty standard map.
Okay.
I guess that would be Euro, simply because Euro is just the best civ on RE really, and Germany is really strong on RE on a standard map. So they don't really have a lot of bad matchups there.
Mm-hmm.
But Euro is just stronger. So yeah, I would say the worst matchup is Euro, and the best would be against Dutch, I think, because or Dutch or Ports. Ports and Dutch are like really slow, and they just die to Germany basically. Like they
Okay.
can't hold.
It's amazing how different team is from 1v1. Looking so in 1v1, I would probably tend to agree with Kaiserklein, at least on RE. And on EP, Iroquois are nerfed quite a bit. Dutch is buffed, so it might be a little bit more closer matchups there. I would say in team though, a civ that I'd never really want to go against, if I am Germany, is actually Portuguese, because Germans, basically as Germany in team, you don't want to stay H2 very long. Making some Ulans are great, but you want to go to H3 before long, and then Portuguese definitely is the same.
Mm-hmm.
They want to go to H3 before too long themselves, and Portsgoons completely outclass War Wagons. The Castador outclass the Skirmishers. You have a stronger eco due to the free TCs. Early on, Germany's going to have a better eco due to the settler wagon shipments. But yeah, for me, actually, in Team Portuguese is one of the few civs that are, I'm like, you know what, I really don't want to go against that. Another one might be like Sue or something. But it's just, if I'm picking, personally, if I'm picking a civ in team, I am paying a lot of attention to the mobility advantage. And Germans have the ability to have the mobility advantage early in H2 due to the Ulan mass. And then they also have war wagons, which are pretty decent units in all reality. And I wouldn't want to go against a civ that would have the mobility advantage over me. So yeah, I'd probably say in team, the one civ that I wouldn't want to go against is Portuguese. And the civs that I am fine going against, actually something like French, actually, due to having so Ulans give you the advantage early with the mass. And then Germany has some of the best answers into the Gendarme super strong cav, more so than any other civ. The War Wagon's extremely strong, and then also Dopplesoldner is very good versus the French Gendarme.
Okay. That sounds really good. Let me. And by the way, either of you feel free to like chime in on anything if you want to respond. This is one question, Kaiser, that like we all struggle with. Jailed, I know, has a strong opinion on this. Let's talk about the one card that haunts a lot of German players. What do you think of Germantown farmers?
In 1v1 or in team?
1v1. Let's go with that, and then we'll talk in team.
Well, you basically don't have it in your deck because it's not viable in 1v1. It's just way too expensive.
Okay.
Put it this way. On EP, town centers cost 100 less wood, and yet in 1v1 you basically never see a German player go for 3 town centers and boom. So you can imagine that if no one goes for this, even with cheaper town centers, like no one is gonna send a card and then build mills and then train settler wagon, right? Like
Okay.
that's so much more expensive than town centers, right? And
Yeah.
even town centers are too expensive. And I'm not even mentioning the fact that town centers mean you can call an extra set of Minutemen. They mean you can garrison your villas and take map control. They mean you get 10 pop out of them, so it's like a house as well. You know, like all these advantages you get from the TC, you don't get it from the mill. Except you can gather from the mill, but you don't want to gather from a mill because it's just so slow. So yeah, basically it's not viable in 1v1.
Yeah,
Okay.
and also on top of that, to agree with Kaiserklein even more, the villagers, the settlers cost 100 food, while settler wagon costing 100 food, 100 wood, while just being twice as good as a villager. It's not ideal by any means. So I completely agree with that.
Oh, and one last thing, it also takes a slot in your deck, and
yeah.
the German deck is already crowded in H3.
Yeah. Okay. Now in team.
I'll let you start it off, Kaiser, if you want.
Oh, well, I think it's I think even in 2v2, I maybe wouldn't have it in deck. I think you could have it in deck, but I don't feel like again in 2v2 you often you don't even really go for 3 TCs directly as Germany, or you do it, but like after a while. So I don't feel like there should be already a window where you can afford to boom so much in 2v2. In 3v3, the games tend to be a little bit more passive. The map is a bit bigger. It takes more time to push your opponent. Maybe you can. I think in 3v3, it's a card I would have in my deck. Well, I mean, I have it in my 3v3 deck, actually. But I don't send it very often.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so
yeah.
for me, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, Kaiserklein. It used to be actually, GK, I've actually changed my opinion slightly on it.
Okay.
So it used to be that I wouldn't have it at all. I would just have you start off with 3 settler wagons. I would have the 2 in H1, the 2 and 3 in H2, the team 2 in H3, and the 6 in H4. And all of those together is 18. And I would just try not to lose settler wagons. However, there are some games where you are going to lose settler wagons, and so I have included it in my decks, but if I can get away without sending it, I prefer to. And here's why. I agree very much with Kaiserklein. It's very expensive to send Germantown farmers. It's both a card, it's you have to have mills, and you have to build the settler wagons. If you do the math, if you say don't use the 6 settler wagons, then you have to create 10 to max out on settler wagons. And if you create 10 as say from 2 farms, I feel like that's a good number. Yeah. 2 farms is 800 wood, and then 10 settler wagons is 1,000 food, 1,000 wood. So that is 2,800 resources 1,000 of it being food and 1,800 of it being wood. So it's extremely expensive. And as far as the boom part of it, it's not something I want to do ever. So I'd rather just send the settler wagons. That's my preference, but to each their own. I understand some people don't like the 6 settler wagon shipment at all. You have a lot of really good shipments in H4, even as Germany. But yeah, that's my opinion. I prefer not to send it, but if I have to, I do.
I think I get what you mean, but I think there's another way to see it. It's that maybe the priority in team is to one of the first things you have to do is to build a deck. And if you're gonna have 6 settler wagons and 2 settler wagons in H2, it's already 2 cards you need. And German town farmers is only 1, which means you can add the whatever it's called, that card that buffs your settler wagons by 35% or something.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Field artisans.
And that is the one reason I think if you go German town farmers, you need that card in your deck. That's the reason why you would go for the boom, because then your settler wagons, they're actually way better than normal wheels. I mean, even 2 wheels. And I think that's the main thing about it. Like, if you're not gonna it's that one on the bottom right there of your deck. If you're not gonna send that card, which is, well, it's insane, 35%, then I wouldn't go for German town farmers.
No, I definitely think you should always have that card in deck. And for anyone curious, it's not just like 1.35, like you see 35% and you just think, all right, 35% stronger, but a settler wagon is already 2 times stronger than a villager, so it makes it 2.7 times stronger, which is really, really good. And obviously, if you were paying attention to math, you would realize that, but sometimes it's something that people don't realize, and 2.7 times stronger is extremely good. And
I guess the big struggle I have when I play a Germany game and it's H3, I don't know if this is a Germany thing, but I never feel comfortable playing Germany. Like, whereas like playing India or ports, I don't know, maybe I have more structures. I feel more safe. I know this might just all be psychological, but I feel like with Germany, I always have to check the opponent. Whereas with Brits, Japan, India, ports, I can just boom myself and make sure I don't get raided. Do you guys share any of that? Do you think Germany is a very like keep track of your opponent kind of civ, or go play solitaire kind of civ? Or are those like low level thoughts? And once I get up there, I shouldn't have those thoughts.
Well, a little bit, because like the one reason why you have to scout a lot as Germany is because of your unit composition, I think. Typically, war wagons are just not very good. Really, they scale quite well after some upgrades, but they don't have very good base stats, and they're awkward to micro as well. So basically, you want to make as few war wagons as possible, kind of. If you make too many war wagons, you're just not gonna beat like skirms and goons. If you have war wagons, it's just not gonna work. So you kind of have to like scout and figure out how much cav your opponent is gonna have, how many war wagons you should make. If you can afford to ship something like the Jaegers, which are a great card, but it's quite risky to send it because it's expensive and it takes a while to come. So you have to scout to know what unit composition you're gonna go for, basically.
Okay.
But other than that, you also have to scout sometimes to know if you can age up or if you have to stay in H2 a little bit longer. In 1v1, you may get pushed by some Musks and Huss, something like that in H2, and you may have to add a bit of infantry. That's about it, basically. Yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of a deck, what deck would you not like for team? I'm just kind of curious as to. I haven't looked at one of your decks. I guess I could look, but I made a deck just for you.
2v2 or 3v3 deck?
Let's say 3v3.
Well, if that's a service free deck, you have too many unit shipments.
Okay.
So I would cut 3 dops because usually you're not gonna need that,
Okay.
and probably cut the Black Raiders because I said War Wagons are not very good, but when they get upgraded, they are quite good. So you don't really want to send Black Raiders. You can cut probably 8 skirms. Um, and I probably would cut the church upgrade because
Church upgrade.
usually you're not gonna go infantry so much, and that's what it's there for. And instead, I would add well, a bunch of plantation upgrades, basically just all the plantation upgrades because you need so much coin in late game as Germany. So there's still one in Age 1, and then you can add a meal upgrade, I guess, the one in H2.
Oh, so you play a lot of eco cards in a 3v3, I guess. I know that
Yeah,
might sound
kind of,
dumb, but I
yeah.
guess the question I have behind that is, why not just like pump, like I'm just saying hypothetically, let's take these two out. Why wouldn't I want like, more free units as Germany versus eco upgrades? What's like the thought process there?
Well, that would be what you do in 1v1. In 1v1, you don't have time to boom so much and send all these eco upgrades, and so you have to send unit shipments and all that. But
Okay.
in team, the difference is that, well, I think it really comes a lot down to the fact there's really two main things in team. First, the map is so big, so like pushing takes forever, and it's not like shipping units in your base. Like they have to cross the map before you can fight with them, and that alone takes so long, So it's just not as good to ship units in 3v3 as in 1v1. The other
Okay.
thing is that in team you tend to make one unit, sometimes 2 units in 3v3. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you don't mix as many units as in 1v1, which means you tend to ship less units. Like who wants to have, you know,
Oh,
who wants,
okay.
who wants to have 30 Ulans and 8 skirms, Like, what's the point of having 8 skirms on top of 30 Ulans? You might as well ship Cav combat and then Cav HP and whatever, You're only going to make Ulans and War Wagons, so just send Cav upgrades anyway, And that is more important than having 8 or 7 skirms in your deck or something like that.
That makes
Um,
sense. I
and
really like
and
that. Yeah, sorry, keep going.
it tends to go late game, like just because of what I said, people are less aggressive because shipping units is less efficient. So it tends to go late game a lot. And then when it goes to late game, you're going to be really sad if all you have to ship is 8 skirms or 3 dops. And instead of having like plus 25% on your plantations and that kind of stuff.
Okay, okay. I see everything here. Jailed, I know you wanted to ask general gameplay, so let me sum up with one last question, or maybe one or two. We only have 8 minutes, by the way, in the Zoom, guys. So the other big question that kind of comes up, and one of the last two for Germany is why, like, just talk to me about DOPS, because A, people ask, why make DOPS over pikes? And B, what is Solingen Steel worth it? I think it's the card that upgrades DOPS I'll pull it
Yeah.
up on the screen share, but
So
yeah, talk to me a
um,
bit about that.
Solingen Steel is not worth it.
Okay.
Was it the question? Why is it worth it? That was the question.
I
Yeah,
think it
is
was
it worth it?
asking. I think it was asking first of all, are DOPS viable, and then Solingen Steel is a card that you should send.
Yeah, I know. I was just gonna answer the second one first because it's very straightforward
Yeah.
and it's not worth it.
No,
It's not worth it.
I 100% agree with Kaiser here.
Yeah,
So it only affects base stats. So if you have completely imperial, completely upgraded DOPS in every other way, it's more like a 10% HP and attack boost off of the current stats at least. And then
well, surely it's more than 10%. I mean, it's 50% on base, so it should be more. But yeah, I get your point.
right. Well, I'm just saying it's not actually 50% of current stats. So
Yeah.
it's not actually a super big boost to hit points and attack, but the speed is insane. The the speed of Dops is really only changed by the advanced arsenal and by the church card, and then of course this card. And so it's not as many upgrades as the veteran upgrade, the guard upgrade, the imperial upgrade, all the other Dops cards, any other upgrades you get from the arsenal or natives or whatever. It's this card is impact speed a lot more than hit points and attack.
Yeah.
And I would say, I know there's going to be some treaty players probably watching this. They're in treaty. I have heard some high-level treaty players say that they like it because they use Dops primarily just as anti-cav and kind of keep them back. And I understand that, but I personally don't agree with it too much. I can understand the use of it, but yeah, is for a card that doesn't really boost attack and hit points all that much and it drastically slows down your units, I don't prefer it at all. I agree with Kaiser very much here.
The thing is that basically melee infantry in this game is a little bit underwhelming usually, because they don't really connect. Like they get hit and run and they don't have the time to do all that much. So do you really want to have like a dot that will basically never be able to reach anything? Like what's the point, right? It's nice to have 50% more HP and attack, but if you're just a moving target, it's pointless. In treaty though, the thing is that usually they're playing on Andes, where they get an extra speed bonus. So the dots aren't that cool. And also the fact that in treaty, you're not really running around the map, you're just fighting in one spot.
Yeah.
So they don't mind having slower dots so much because they're gonna fight anyway. They're not gonna get hit and run like in sub. So that card is okay in treaty, but it's not an option in sub, honestly.
Let's I want to real quick look at it from a different perspective. If there was a card that made Dops faster but have less attack and less HP, would that be worth sending? And I would say yes in general. The reason why, melee infantry does really good when they get into melee with whatever they're attacking.
Yeah.
But they do really bad if they're not in melee. So that's why this card is bad, is because it makes it harder to get into melee. But if you're already going into melee, you're going to be doing great. You're great versus all type of cav, whether it be ranged cav, heavy cav, whatever. And versus skirmishers, you're going to do amazing. Musketeers, they actually do somewhat okay versus Dops, but the area damage is really good. So yeah, looking at it from a different perspective, you can see why this card is not very ideal, especially in Supremacy.
So in in Supremacy and Team, if your teammate says I go Dops, do you cringe? Do you not have teammates that say that?
I would generally cringe unless I know the player really well.
Yeah, I mean, there may be situations where you can go Dops. Like, for example, let's say you're with Otto when you want to go for Dops Aegis guns. It's not always the best option, but it's an option. But in most matchups, you just don't go Dops, really.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Kaiserklein immediately, definitely here. When someone says he goes Dops, I definitely do cringe. I will say, having played with some really good players on EP, there are some players that make speedy Dops work. And it is a little bit map dependent. If there's a map with Inca natives on it, then it can be really good.
Yeah.
It does take time to get to that point. And I will also agree with Kaiserklein in that if your teammate is going something like Avis, it can be good for sure too. Yeah, I agree completely with Kaiser here.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, sorry. Finish up.
We didn't really answer your first question, I guess, about why would I make Dops over pikes?
Yes.
Like, why would I train Dops? You have to see it like that. Pikes are bad. Pikes are bad. They're affordable. So early on, you can get batches of 5 pikes easily. You can even sometimes go for double racks, send some wood crates and spam double racks, pikes and crossbows. And it's easy to macro. They just, it's the same cost as a crossbow as well. So it's easy to macro, it's easy to mass. So that's why you sometimes go crossbow pike. Dops, they're more expensive, but once you get them, they're just a better unit. They're more cost efficient than pikes against well, pretty much everything. So like you can fight pikes with cav. Like let's say I have 5 cav and you have 5 pikes, I can take the fight and win it, and it would even be a good trade for me. Let's say you have even just 2 dops, I wouldn't even fight the 2 dops because like they're so scary. They're such a good anti-cav, and they also do better against all the infantry. They do better. Like they just with the area they do damage. I mean, pikes do nothing against infantry. So that's the thing. Dops are expensive. You can't really get them out early, but if you can get them, it's better than pikes, and it's your only real anti-cav unit in H2 then, because you don't have musketeers. If you had musketeers, you would never really train dops anyway.
Yeah, I agree with Kaiser very much here. Dops are very expensive too. 75 food, 125 coin. The pikes being 40 food, 40 wood. You can essentially get 2.5 pikes out for the same 200 resources. Wood is harder to gather, whatnot. It's about 2.5. So yeah, I agree very much with him here. One thing also really important to take into account, we've already touched on speed a little bit. Pikes have 5 base speed while dops have 4.5. So the extra speed does make a difference. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's one last thing I wanted to do, and Jail, this will like mesh into your thing. By the way, the Zoom's ending, so let me launch a new one, and then we'll catch this back up for another 10, 15. The last question I had was I was going to let you pick the map, but I kind of just wanted to hear your commentary on a normally. So for RE, the people who don't have the patch, Deccan, Great Plains, and maybe Sanguinay are, I think, statistically the 3 most played maps for my PR level and the people I play with. You get to pick, but I wanted to hear like your high level commentary for Germany on those maps, like what you would generally do, what you look for, stuff like that. Which one did you want to do, Deccan, Great Plains, or Sanguinay?
Well, I don't mind really. It's up to you. Just give me the map you want, or I can do the 3 of them quickly. It's up to you. I don't mind.
Okay.
Let's do Great Plains, since Saguenay is a water map and Great Plains is a land map. It also has TPs. Saguenay does of course also, but Saguenay is fairly similar to Hudson Bay on EP, and Great Plains is fairly similar to High Plains. So there is an EP reference there too also.
Okay. All right. So let me share the screen and then we can talk about it there. 1 second. Okay, good. All right, I'll just start a game on Great Plains. The reason I wanted to do this is I just kind of want to see what you look for, what you try to do, what your beginning micro / map scouting does for you. So once this launches, we'll go.
So do you want me to like sort of coach you live, or just
no, because we don't have the time to go through a full kind of game. But
so you just want to show the map and
yeah. So what would you generally look for or plan for in this map?
The very first thing you check is your crates. Which crates you're starting with. I don't know if you're aware of what kind of starting crates you can have, but there's like 5 different spawns for your crates.
Okay.
So there's basically 3 kinds. There's the kind with wood, the kind with gold, and the kind with nothing. So right now you have nothing, so you just have the standard 300 food, 100 wood. Sometimes you get an extra 100 wood, and then if you get that, the very first thing you do is send your explorer in the middle map. In that TP, because this middle TP is absolutely broken. Like it's really ridiculous. If you get to build that, you're gonna get the XP instantly and basically be able to ship your 2 settler wagons directly. So it's basically it speeds you up so much. And if you do that, you have to chop 100 wood for a house, of course. But you're not even going to age late because you get your 2-settler wagons so fast that you're going to gather a lot of food from them. So that's the first thing you check. What
Okay.
crates you have. If you have wood, you go for the TP. If you have coin, the coin start, well, you know that on this map, you should have some coin treasures around your base. Like there's 2 small treasures here.
Yeah.
At least one of them should be coin. Maybe
Yeah.
the other is food, but often it's 2 coin treasures. So you just pick them up and you build a market and buy 100 wood from it and get your hunting dogs.
Okay.
If you have no coin and no wood, you can try to go for a market and hope you're gonna find, well, that coin treasures, maybe some wood treasure, or you can just do nothing and age up with just a house. So that's the first thing you do in this map. After that, I mean, beyond the early macro and the starting crates, you are going to scout. Well, it's a map with there's no specific scouting pattern on this map. You can scout anywhere. The treasures are really everywhere on the map. You should find good treasures everywhere on the map anyway. So you can go scout basically anywhere and just hope you're gonna be lucky. One thing to check is also the hunts. You have to find your hunts because sometimes it can be a little bit tricky on Great Plains.
Yeah, these are not great. That's what I'm thinking. But you tell me.
Well, there's that bison hunt on the left of your base, which is a little bit far away, but if you heard it, the other one, I think this
Over
is
here.
closer. And if you heard it early enough, it should be in a decent position.
Okay.
And then after that, well, I mean, then it plays out like any map. It's really very standard.
Okay.
You know?
Let me ask you, I guess, one or two my questions about it, and then Jailed, I want you to kind of ask some of the higher stuff. When do you go for the Cheyenne or the Comanche TPs, or do you ever go for them? I know this one gives you a Cav HP boost, Comanche horse breeding, I think, and it also gives you Mustangs, which gives you speed, combined with the German, card of the moving one. I forget what it's called. I think Spanish Steel. It could, Spanish Riding School. I guess you could stack those two and get 20% faster Ulan, but do you pay attention to natives at all in most maps, or in Great Plains you really like Comanche, or what's your thoughts on that?
Pay enough attention to natives, but you have to keep in mind that at least if we're talking about 1v1, you don't even have the Spanish riding school, for example, that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It's really fun to do. Like getting fast cav is real fun, but it's just not viable. You're not gonna go industrial to ship that card. It's not gonna happen. If you do that, you just die. But regardless, I would take the Cheyenne settlement if I don't have food. Sometimes you get the bison tech in there. So if you have no hunt, you can get a hunt. So of course it's quite nice. And I would get the Comanche probably somewhere in middle fortress, like not too early because it's still a little bit expensive, but it's a pretty good upgrade. I mean, especially the HP upgrade is very cheap. And so you could get that around maybe 12 minutes if you have a lot of Ulans alive. It kind of depends on how many cav you have right now. If you have a lot of cav right now, then just take it and get the HP. It's worth a lot if you have a lot of cav. But if you have like 5 Ulans, then you're never gonna get it.
Okay. And I guess, Jailed, I'll let you talk about mine placements and, whatever you think would be what you consider. But yeah, I'll formally turn it over to you, Jailed. So you ask